Okay, Baruch Hashem, there is light at the end of this darkness. That's what Mirz Hashem we're going to get to today. So we said that each of these Avodah Zaras started serving one more strange than the next. Kevin she'archu hayom, and as the days went on, nishtakach Hashem hanichbad v'hanoira, God became totally forgotten. Everything started spinning out of control to the point that we said there were three phases. The first phase, people knew of God. They felt they were doing this in the name of God. The second phase, they were describing how God told them to serve this angel or this power. Third phase, God is all but removed. Now the star or the spirit or the angel told me to serve it in this way. And as that continued, God became, God forbid, but that's what happened then. And if we don't learn from history, then there's problems of repeating it, Hashem Yirachem in this case. And as the days went on, God became forgotten from the people. V'loi hikiruhu, and people did no longer know of God. V'nimtzu kol am ha'aretz, and from that we found that all people of the land, hanoshim ve'aktanim, men, women, children, einim yodim, they did not know of God. What did they know of? Ella hatsura shel eitz, this shel evan. They knew of whatever the local idol worship symbol existed in their town. That's all they knew. If they were raised with, this is the symbol, or this is the idol, and you ask your brothers and sisters, yeah, like what's this thing? Like, oh yeah, like your older brothers and sisters, oh yeah, like this is the thing, you know what I'm saying? And your parents say, this is the thing, the grandparents say, this is the thing. Well, how'd that start? So the Rambam gave us a very rational way to understand how it all started. And it started spreading that way. All they had was their local heichal, their local sanctuary, shalavonim, shenischanchu mikatnusam, that they were educated from the time that they were tiny, lishtachavos la. That's what they knew, to bow down to this. La'avda ulihi, the Rambam adds something, ulishava bishma. And now they started swearing oaths, taking shavuos in the name of that idol.
Why does he have that?
That takes on another level of severity, is that I'm swearing in the name of this.
That's how real they believed in him.
An oath is a very powerful thing. We across society, people know that when you take an oath, people swear an oath to something, it's like an allegiance to it. That they're putting their entirety of themselves behind this thing. That's why taking an oath in Torah law is very severe. A nazir, a shavua, these are very powerful things. We advise a person not to do this at all, because if a person breaks it, it's much more severe than taking it and not being able to fulfill it. Breaking it is very, very, and therefore we advise people just don't take them at all. Certainly not in the name of some idol. So they were putting themselves, and also a shavua, we have a concept like this, called being hashba, to basically cut deals with angels, to like give your word to an angel and then they'll provide something for you. This is a certain thing. And that almost manipulates the angel and forces them to do certain things. That you almost make them to swear that they'll, what would that look like in modern days? Cutting like side deals, side contracts, blackmailing a person, God forbid. These types of like side things that are shady.
Shady.
Shady. Shindalid E. Lo aleinu. And look, he comes back to the Chacham. You see, there's a lot of Chacham here. Ve'achacham shahayu behem, kagoyin koyaneim, v'chayotz behem. And the Chachamim amongst them, wise men amongst them, and those like them. Medamin she'ein sham Eloika, they actually got to a place, this sounds like otherwise intellectual people, they got to a place where they said there is no God. Ela ha-koychavim ve'agalgalim. All there is this very elaborate mythology of stars and lowercase gods, powers, spheres, energies, consciousness. But there's not a God. There's not the God, the one. Shenasu hatsurus ha'elu biglolim v'ledmusam. There is none except the ones that we see. Aval tsur ha'olamim, the rock of the world, the eternal rock, was not recognized. Loi hayashum adam shahaya makiro v'lo yoda. Nobody knew of God. Ella, except Yechidim ba'olam. There was a few people who were individuals. We're talking about inhumanity. This is how bad it got. Inhumanity. There were small pockets, individuals, heads of families that knew God. Everything else had become pagan. So let that sink in a second. Everything became pagan. And he lists them. Kagoin Chanoich, Mesushalach, Noach, Shem, Aver. Now, interestingly enough, each of these tzaddikim are criticized in other places for not doing enough to help their generation. They weren't starting any Aish branches. And that they were criticized for that, on their own level. Noach was a big tzaddik. Right? So, that's right. It's a pasuk, Kepler to the Fisala. He was a big tzaddik, and it's pashut. So, but they were criticized. At their level, it looks like, we don't understand their unbelievable godless. Be'emes, we don't. Noach. This is the man that God started the entire world from. He was a tzaddik tamim mamish. But Chazal want to teach us something. There was some criticism according to his level. Chanoch, he walked with God. He just okay. When human beings become angels and don't die, you know that they're doing pretty good. Pretty chashuv. But they were criticized. At their level, they were criticized that they should have done more outreach. That in your generation, I'm not speaking critically, I'm just trying to speak the way that Chazal spoke. In your generation, that there was so much paganism, and you weren't able to turn the generation in a direction. There was a critique of that. Yes, Yosef.
I was speaking about with Adam that maybe Rav Noach could have been a Gilgul of Noach and may have done the tikkun that
I think so.
In terms of cure.
I think maybe I heard that from the Rosh Shiva, actually.
Oh, wow.
It could even be that the Rosh Shiva said in the name of Reb Noach, that he said that he was a Gilgul of Noach. I think he said it like jokingly. He knows that he's not the Arizal, like the Arizal knows Gilgulim. We don't usually have that authority for a long time to be definitive in that. But you could say things like, I wouldn't call it immediately bidichusa, like in a way of like, but as a remez shabo, like maybe, like Noach was like this, and I'm literally doing the opposite. Maybe, like, it sits well with me, I'll tell you that much. It sits very well with me. That Reb Noach, his whole life was about, let's reach out to the Jewish people, and let's reach out to humanity to help human beings come back on course. This is not just about the Jewish people, this is about human beings connecting to their Creator. And these were select individuals that were constantly connected to God, but were not able to be mashpia, were not able to help the community around them. And there was a critique of that. And says the Rambam, he finishes this halacha, V'al derech zeh haya olam ha'hoylech u'misgalgel. And in this way, the entire world was going, spinning out of control. I love this, until one great day. Shenoilad, I'm getting goosebumps. Shenoilad amudai shel olam, until the pillar of humanity was born. The pillar of humanity. A pillar means something solid, something that stands something up. The pillar of humanity was born. Vehu, and this is none other than Abraham Avinu. Yeah, the crowd goes wild. Abraham Avinu, the pillar of the world, is born. At this point, it's like humanity is about to completely change direction. Says the Rambam, Halacha Gimel, Kevan shenigbal eisan zeh, once this mighty titan was weaned. He's called in many places the Titan, the Eitan. It's a good name, Eitan. The whole month of Tishrei is called Yerach HaEsanim, the month of the Titans, the month of the mighty ones, because it has mighty days. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shana Rabbah, Shmini. These are mighty days, corresponding to the Avos, corresponding to the mighty ones. Abraham Avinu was the Eitan, was the mighty one. So from the time that he was Nigmal, the Gemara seems to indicate that this was when he was 3. We have different ages as to what it meant that Abraham Avinu was weaned. Does it mean that he was weaned from idol worship? Does it mean that he was literally weaned from not having mother's milk anymore? He was weaned. The simple meaning was when he was 3. Hitchil l'shotet b'daitoi. He started to do something called shotet b'dato. It's a hard word to translate. It probably means incessant wandering, thinking of the mind. Exploring. Like, I think Joe Rogan had a shirt on one time, like exploration, like space explorer something. There was like some cool shirt I remember thing. I was like, that's a cool shirt. Of that, the mind is here to like explore.
We'll ask him when he comes for his podcast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the schmooze. The mind is meant to explore and journey and think. And Abraham Avinu did just that. His mind started to just investigate.
Wait, this is huge. Do you think that the rest of that pagan culture, they stopped exploring?
Yes.
Why?
The way that it's set up before, you see, is that it's what we know.
Like
It's what we know.
We worship the local fire god or whatever.
Yeah. This is what we did, This is what, my father does. This is what all the people around me do. Like, this is what you do. And nobody was shaking them up like, did you think about this?
Fast talkers.
Did you think about this? Like, everyone's just fast talking. Nobody came in to say, like, maybe we should think this through. Like, does this make sense? I'll give an example. I think a very relevant modern day example. I grew up in a regular Toronto public school. And, what do you do after public school?
Drugs.
Also that. You play basketball. You go to college. You try to get into the best college possible. Why? So that you can get, a job at the Fortune 500 and basically, work 60, 70 hours a week, not really like your job. But make some money. And you don't question that. Like, who questions that? Like, what are you thinking? So I remember being in high school and just questioning that narrative. And people thought I was nuts. Like, what are you, nuts? What are you thinking? Like, that's what we all do. Like, we're doing that. That's what we're doing. Why don't you do it? And I mean everybody. Okay, there's a few crazy hippie types that were questioning, but they were like hippies. So they were just nuts. But I was like, maybe they're up to something, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they know something that these suits don't know. I just wanted to think about stuff. You get what I'm saying, right, Nate? I just thought, isn't it worth thinking about? That's what I thought. Isn't it worth thinking this through? like my life decisions.
I just thought they use the word suits was ironic. It's funny.
I've become one.
Along your suit. Just saying,
So,
in the Rambam's,
You know what I mean with suits, power suits. You know what I'm saying?
in the Rambam's framework, is saying if a person could get rid of the built up pagan whatever framework, they'll get to where Abraham Avinu went because he allowed himself like this is not real. So you get to Abraham if you could kind of like just think without.
I think it sounds like that the mind is naturally shaitit. Almost means like if you let your mind be organic the way that God made a mind, you will arrive at this. And there's many indications that he had no rebbes. He did not have a teacher. He wasn't going to a shir or someone, let me explain the nature of the world to you, Abraham Avinu. He was completely steeped in Ur-Kasdim. We're going to go into Oiv de Avodah Zarah everywhere. But he was able to create a space where he said, let me just think this out. Whereas before that, either you have the leaders that were corrupt. So why were people doing it? Some were just corrupt, pashut. They were corrupt. They wanted the power. They wanted the money. They wanted the control, the manipulation. That was happening. So if you're at that echelon, so you're just corrupt. Why do you want it? You're corrupt. There were other people that weren't corrupt, but they were just, that's all they knew. I would call them amaratzim of Avodah Zarah. They didn't know any better. They were just like the sheep masses, just going through the motions of this is what you do. You go to college, get a job that you hate, and not even really think about it. But just, you have to turn the cogs of this. You have to be a cog in the system. So, why? Maybe think that out. I remember when I had friends who started making a lot of money and didn't go to college, and it started bugging out the whole system, the authority. Like that can't work. Like you can't do that. And then now like everybody's doing it. But they say like the establishment, you can't do that. That's not how it works. Like you have to go through this system that we set up to be a robot in the thing. You can't think about something outside the box. It can't be. That's just not how life works. And people started saying, I was like that cusp where people started, it started in certain ways, in modern days, like in the 60s was a whole thing. And you started to say, let's just think about this for a second.
What did we build?
Yeah, what did we build? The 60s had a lot to do with this. The 50s were a very challenging time after the war. People became very boxy. They'll leave it to Beaver, like 50s, like, honey, I'm home. And all the kids are all lined up, and it was like a lot of fake. That was very boxed in. You didn't think about doing anything outside the box. There was a lot of anxiety during that time. Speaking to people from that generation, like, if things didn't look perfect, my mother describes like, there's something called a chiffon cake. Okay, a chiffon cake is like a type of cake with like meringue, I think, or something like, and it's like poofs up, and it's like, I don't think the thing tastes good. It's more just when it comes out, and if the chiffon like would flop in, that would be like a disaster, obviously. And it just had to be like, you make the chiffon cake, right? Like you have to do what people are doing, and you have to go to work and get the job. And the hippies were like, what is going on? Like, what is this all about? Now, what they did is they went, in the language of Kabbalah, they went from hyper yira, fall in line, to hyper ava, way too far, where they blurred all the boundaries, which is terrible. You need boundaries, healthy boundaries. And what we're trying to do is bring things back to the middle. Equilibrium. Healthy ava, healthy emotion and questioning, and shoitet bedaita. Shoitet bedaita is very free thinking. This is the way a university should be. Shoitet bedaita. You walk in and what do you think? This is what yeshiva is. Ideally, is let me hear what you think about it. But it's not dogmatic. Dogmatic is, this is what we do. You better do it. Shoitet bedaita is like, let me hear what you think about it. And if you say something that makes more sense, then we'll acquiesce to it. Yeah.
It's such a crazy point you're saying is that it seems like, what's the phrase? The other was what?
Shoitet bedaita.
That exploring of free thinking, of analyzing. So it seems like you're saying the first few thousand years of humanity, the Homo sapiens, it started off good. They were just afraid, like, oh God, yeah. And then they're like, okay, intermediaries. Then they like built up
something complex happens. Something complex.
Something. There's a shift, and then they built up these like religions.
Yes.
These dogmatic pagan religions.
Yes.
Abraham's like 1 second, then we thought, and then again it happened where we built. There's these frameworks, and then Jesus, and then Muhammad, and then the whole Middle East. I know Rav has this piece about that secular atheism is very good for humanity because it's gonna be a cleansing force, all the crazy stuff of the Catholic Church and Islam. I think that's right to your point. It seems like humanity's going through this shote bedaito slowly on a man. And that's why the Rogan, that these podcasts are, they say the podcast won Trump the election. Hearing people just talk, a podcast is shote, just let's float together. I think
that particular podcast was an example of shoitet bedaito.
Wow.
Let's speak things out. Let me hear your thoughts on it. Let's speak things in a way, and something that I appreciate that Joe does, is that it appears to me, is that he lets people speak.
Wow.
And, some people, there's a Yid, a very nice Yid, Lex Friedman, that I didn't meet yet, but I'd be happy to meet him. But he could speak to him for 7-8 hours. And just let's talk about things. Let's just really, very long format. Let's really talk things out, and let's see where the conversation takes it. Wow. Let's see that's a very pure organic, that's what yeshiva is. That's why sometimes the raid becomes very boxy, even though we love what the Rashi says, obviously, but you're allowed to feel Rashi for a little bit. It's not just, I said the Rashi and the Pnei Shua on the Rashi, and it's, wait a second, can we slow this all down? How do I feel about the Rashi?
Wow.
I'm not trying to turn yeshivas into one big group therapy, but there's a feeling state of I can have an organic experience in my feelings and my thinking that is not dogmatic at all, and that's what Hashem wants me to be experiencing, to be a shoitet bedaitoi. And it says that v'hu katan. Specifically, he was little. He was small. This was happening when he was 3 years old. Which means for the first part of his life, he was still young enough and he was in the mix. But he started just using his mind. It appears that the Rambam is telling us that Abraham Avinu just used pure human logic to get to God. That if you allow your mind to just do what it should do, it will bring you to God. I think he was also honest without cognitive dissonance. Or dissonance, however it's said. That he was just honest that let me just take a look at what my mind is pulling me towards. And we're going to go through exactly the things that he started thinking about. Like, where did this world come from? Who put the sun and the moon in the sky? Who's moving the constellations? They can't move themselves. Finite can't start itself. Where did it come from? Aristotelian thinking. But that was very pure for Avraham Avinu. If we allow our mind to just organically think, we'll get to good places. So Mitzvah Shem, we're going to see now we've arrived at Avraham Avinu, which is going to be the entire fixing. I told you there's hope here. We had a good 5 days of, in the trenches of paganism. Baruch Hashem, we pulled ourselves out of that, and there's hope. And we're going to go through Avraham Avinu. And when we complete Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the Shvatim, Klal Yisrael, Or Lagoyim, then we're going to see how this is the fifth Iker of the Rambam and Imam Bim and the Shlema, that this is the Iker, that Hashem, you're the only destination. For Tefillah, we're going to talk about Tefillah as it works into the context of understanding that God is the only destination, understanding what they were trying to do with Avodah Zarah going another direction. And this is going to be a very beautiful topic because people want to know a lot about Tefillah. It's a topic that is challenging for many people, And it's very dear and deep to the soul of the human prayer. We should be Zoicha Mamish, Bekarav, to be Shoitet B'daitai with Mashiach Tzidkenu, and Tikka B'Shoifa Gadol, that everyone should return home once and for all with the Binyan Beis HaMikdash B'mhera V'Yameinu. Amen. Amen. Have a wonderful day. Kol Tuv.